Hello, hello. Welcome back to the P2P Soap Box. I'm your host and P2P BFF, Marcie Maxwell. We've all seen the headlines. Stars, they're just like us. And while digital creators and streamers might feel like they live in a whole different world, the truth is they're not that different from the rest of us. So as peer-to-peer fundraising continues to evolve, more and more nonprofits are finding themselves crossing paths with these online creators. And yes, they come with big followings, fresh platforms, unique perspectives, but at their core, these digital creators are looking for the same things as any other peer-to-peer fundraiser. Your support, motivation, to know their meaningful impact of dollars raised, and to build real relationships with the organizations they're supporting. So in this episode, we're going to dive into what it really takes to build lasting, mission-aligned partnerships with content creators in the peer-to-peer space. I'm joined by two nonprofit leaders who successfully navigated this space, Aimee Yrlas-Simpson and Angela Ridenour from the Immune Deficiency Foundation. The Immune Deficiency Foundation improves the diagnosis, treatment, and quality of life for every person affected by primary immunodeficiency. Their journey with working with content creators kicked off when they connected with global streamer Ironmouse, who also happens to be part of the primary immunodeficiency community. So together, we're going to explore the surprising similarities between streamers and our traditional peer-to-peer fundraisers, how we can show up authentically in a digital-first world, and what it looks like when these partnerships truly click. So let's get into it. Here's my conversation with the Immune Deficiency Foundation's Aimee Yrlas-Simpson and Angela Ridenour. Aimee and Angela, welcome to the P2P Soap Box.
Hey.
Thank you so much for having us.
We are so excited to have y'all to dive into a topic that I know is hot on a lot of people's minds. But before we jump into that, I just want to hear a little bit about each of you. Can you kind of tell your personal, your professional journey that led you to your current roles? Aimee, why don't you go first?
So Marcie, basically, family and a passion to make an impact. Professionally, I love to build consensus. I love to determine commonalities of purpose and making an impact. I've done this throughout my career, from my time with the American Diabetes Association in fundraising, operations, and marketing, to moving on to business executives for national security, advocating for policy change and major donor fundraising, and even from my time at the Woodruff Arts Center and working specifically in strategy and operations. Throughout all of that, it's about building consensus, right? It's about being strategic. It's about making an impact. So that's where I've been professionally until I joined this amazing organization here at the Immune Deficiency Foundation as a Chief Development Officer, and continue to do that great work, but for individuals who are living with primary immunodeficiency. So personally, I've cared for family members who are immunocompromised, and I've served as their champion when fighting for care with doctors or, fighting with insurance companies to make sure that we get approval for medications and we get the care that we need. And so very committed to the immunocompromised community. And so joining IDF really provided a wonderful opportunity to take both my experience as a caregiver, as a development professional, to really make a larger impact in the lives of many. So happy to be here.
That's great. Angela, what about you?
Thanks, Marcie. So in 2014, I began my career in development as the data coordinator at the Carroll Hospital Foundation. Through my time there, I did a lot of the data entry. I did a lot of the stewardship letters. And then as I progressed, I became more involved in running the annual events as well as the Associate Annual Fund. And one of my favorite things about that, and then also as I continue my journey into the peer-to-peer world, is being able to have that connection with the donors, with the associates, with all of the lovely people of the world. So then in 2019, I began my career at the Immune Deficiency Foundation as the walk coordinator. Now, I knew right away, while I don't have a primary immune deficiency, I do have an autoimmune deficiency. I'm type 1 diabetic. So I can relate to a lot of the things that those with primary immunodeficiency have. Now, it's nowhere near the same, but I can definitely relate. So I began as the walk coordinator, and then I progressed to walk manager and development manager, where I manage the walk program as well as our do-it-yourself fundraising program. I am also proud to say that I was one of the first involved in implementing a do-it-yourself fundraising program for the Immune Deficiency Foundation, because we have not had that for too long. And then as of the summer of last year, I became the volunteer manager, where I now manage approximately 600 volunteers nationwide.
Okay. So we've got some great experience on here in a lot of the traditional forms of peer-to-peer, but the Immune Deficiency Foundation has really jumped in to the world of streaming, which is really still a relatively new channel and sometimes a misunderstood channel for peer-to-peer fundraising. So I know y'all have got some great stories. I would love to hear kind of about what helps the organization decide to take that leap. And I know specifically y'all have a great story about a partnership with Ironmouse, who's both a patient and a streamer. Would love to hear kind of how that all began and how you launched into the world of streaming.
Yeah. So simple. We had a community member who, and you mentioned Ironmouse, who she just wanted to share her journey living with primary immunodeficiency. And she reached out to us to engage. One, because we were an organization that she already trusted, right? We were providing resources and support to her, and she wanted to make a larger impact through her time as a content creator, right? And so Ironmouse gave us the tremendous opportunity to engage her community, right? Which is, I think in traditional peer-to-peer, we think community, family members, friends, colleagues. Really, when you look at content creators, so just like everyday people, me and you, their community is the world, right? So she gave us an opportunity to really bring her community in, this worldwide community, over 1 million followers, right? To learn more about who we are, what our mission is. And this was built with both trust and transparency. And it was really led by Angela and our team. So really excited that Angela's on the call here today. I think she'll share more about that. So yeah, I'll turn it over to Angela.
Well, real quick, what type of content was she creating or does she create outside of her fundraising content?
Sure. So she actually creates all kinds, her and Connor. A lot of times they'll play video games, sometimes by themselves, sometimes together, and with other streamers. Sometimes they do like IRL content, so that's like in real life content, where they'll be going out to, to the market, or like Connor takes her to Disneyland sometimes. They've also done streaming at our Walk for PI events. Mouse just participated in Advocacy Day. So they do all kinds of, and while she didn't stream Advocacy Day, she talked about it a lot. So they do all kinds. Sometimes they just chit chat, and they chit chat with their fans that are making comments in the chat. So, they really do all kinds. It just depends on their mood.
And I think what's interesting, Marcie, is that they know their community best, right? And so I think one of the things for us was to really lean on Ironmouse and Connor and say, hey, you know your community better than us, right? We can provide resources and information, but you know best how to deliver that. And so we really worked with them to really put our mission in their own words, and really gave them the opportunity to lead in that. And I think that's what's made this partnership so organic and incredible, is that we've kind of leaned into how they like to communicate, what they know their community likes best. And so it's been extremely, advantageous, obviously, because we want to have more people donate plasma. We want to have people know more about our mission. But we really leaned on them to determine how they wanted that to come across.
So when they first, let's start back at the beginning, when they first came to you to do an event or to do a fundraising campaign, what did that conversation look like internally about saying yes to an opportunity like that from a resourcing standpoint, an energy standpoint? Your leadership, Aimee, how did that, what did that look like internally?
So the connection really began by us asking her a very important question. How did she want to engage? It wasn't hey, we have this walk. Hey, we have this DIY. It was, how did she want to engage? We asked her what impact really meant from her, right? What did that mean to her? What does impact mean to her? And then from there, we really leaned on her to tell us what those two things meant for her and how she wanted to engage. And so from there, we engaged in her stream, providing information that she could share. She was featured on our website, our podcast, sharing her journey. So again, it wasn't a, hey, we think we can fundraise with your community. Not at all. It was a, how do you want to engage? What does that impact look like for you? And with that, it was really more important for us to share her journey. And I think make her more relevant to people who know nothing about who Ironmouse is, right? Now, if you talk to her community, they would probably say, what do you mean you don't know who Ironmouse is, right? But now our whole community is 100%, really behind her and so excited to welcome her. And so, our community welcomed her enthusiastically, and her community began its support of IDF, both sharing the need for plasma donations and making donations to IDF via her subathon streams that are on Twitch. So, that.
Now, what's a subathon?
Subathon.
Not everybody knows.
Hey, I'm gonna pass it on. I'm gonna pass it on to Angela. You want to talk about that, Angela?
Sure. So a subathon, basically overall, it's going to be a long period of time where you do not stop streaming. So what Ironmouse typically does is she'll start this subathon, and then in order for the subathon to keep going and for her to remain online, people have to subscribe. And so,
subscription is the mathathon, it's the radiothon, it's the subscription-a-thon, the subathon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So as long as people keep subscribing, Ironmouse keeps going, and then we get a portion of those proceeds. Ironmouse donates them back to us. So that's really what that is. And the subathons have been a little bit longer than a month each time she's done that. So,
yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like between Ironmouse and then I know there's another content creator, Connor or Sea-Dog VA, her friend, that they've brought really big communities, and raised significant funds. Would love for y'all to share not only how much they've raised, but like, what are you learning about this world of streaming, their new audiences, this new generation? Like, what are you learning about them through engaging with this new group?
Yeah, I can tell you what I've learned and certainly pass it on to Angela, is that this community is no different than any other. I think sometimes we're a little frightened and afraid, and we think, oh, they're content creators, so they might want something else, and we don't really know what they want. No, they want to make an impact, and they see the community, again, larger than family members, friends, colleagues. It's the world. So it's a very different approach. So what I've learned is they want to make an impact just like you or I. They want to engage the community, and their community is larger, but also that there is not this idea of we're putting you in a box. I think we do ourselves a disservice and them when we say, oh, well, we know that you're not going to like to do this, or we know that you're not going to like to do that. It's really about having them lead. They want to fully lead how they want to engage. And I think that's a fresh new take on that. Angela just talked about the subathons. We talked about Connor and, him joining because why? He's not impacted with API, but he loves and cares about Ironmouse, right? The whole community does. And now they've renamed the Immune Deficiency Foundation as the Ironmouse Defense Fund, right? So,
I love it. I'm sure your marketing team loves/hates that a little bit.
Right. And so it's not just the United States, it's international. You have people reaching out to us internationally saying, how can I donate plasma? What more can I do besides give a donation? Want to learn more about the IDF. I know Angela can talk more about people wanting to volunteer and donate. So that's a pivotal moment for us, right? That, yes, the fundraising, we'll get to that, but really making an impact and sharing with them what we're doing with the fundraising, how we're making an impact, how it's really providing support for the everyday individual, whether that's bringing them to our advocacy day, because we're now able to offer scholarships. Again, look, Ironmouse came to advocacy day. She was with us last week, right? All the way from Puerto Rico, and saw her representative. She's participated in our walk event. So again, putting people in a box and not giving them the space to talk about how they want to engage. Those are some of the big things that I've learned. What about you, Angela?
So I agree 200% with that. I think one of the great things about our relationship with Ironmouse and Sea-Dog VA is that we weren't like, this is how we're going to do it. Like you said, right away, we were like, look, any ideas you have, throw them at us. We're going to present these ideas to you. What do you like? What do you not like? What do you think? And so really, it's a true working partnership between us and Sea-Dog VA and Ironmouse. So really just being open and being willing to listen to what they have to say and creating that trust and that bond. And that's what's allowed us to keep expanding our relationship and to keep doing these amazing things, is because we have this trust, this human connection, which is so important. So, because really you can't put into words the magnitude that Ironmouse and Sea-Dog VA have, the voice that they have, that they can do. And if you watch them on their streams, they're who they are. They're these amazing people. Their subscribers, their fans, they love them. And it's because they have that human connection that people want to support who they support. They're so passionate and loyal to them. So it's just really learning to being open and just really watching them honestly live as human beings with this tremendous voice, and watching them, plant that seed about what Immune Deficiency Foundation was. When they started, no one knew, but now the amazing growth. We have people when we'll have staff in airports and they'll see someone wearing an Immune Deficiency Foundation shirt and they're like, I saw that on Connor's stream. So now they know about us. We have volunteers who are now wanting to volunteer from across seas. So we've taken that and we're expanding our volunteer programs, because now we have people who once had no connection. They did not know what a primary immunodeficiency is, but now they want to make a difference because of Connor and Ironmouse.
I feel like we're keeping people in suspense, though, because they've raised some really significant funds for your organization. Do y'all want to kind of share a little bit about, I know Connor just had wrapped up a big fundraising campaign. Tell us about their success.
Angela, do you want to, let's, we don't want to keep them in suspense, but let's talk about where we started, because I think if we say where we are now, you'll be like, whoa, wait a minute. Intimidated here, right? Now, remember, organic relationship with a content creator who was impacted by primary immunodeficiency. She came to us, right? So we know that you probably in your organization have many content creators that you can just reach out to, and I promise you'll find them. But you want to say the first year, I think the first year, if I'm not mistaken, Angela, we just had Ironmouse participating and doing a subathon, if I'm not mistaken, for that first year. Do you remember how much that she raised there?
I don't know. I know Connor's first fundraiser, he raised about $70,000 for us.
Yes.
Which was right the following year.
Right. I think hers was around $200,000. So if we look at year one, you're probably talking about 200. Year two, you're talking about probably 300. Year three, again, having a very transparent conversation around what they wanted to do. And I think, Angela, I don't know if you want to speak to this, but we were very careful about not saying, hey, we know you did this last year. When are you planning on doing that this year? It was very much we know you support us. What do you want to do? What would you like to do? How do you want to, engage? And so
and how can we help you?
And how can we help you? Right? So I think with that conversation, and Angela really led that from we worked on it strategically together. But I think having a staff member who can really be dedicated to ensuring that the stewardship is happening, and that's what Angela did. So a lot of the success that we saw was her having these conversations, not on email, right? Joining them on Discord. Again, it is not about what we do. It's what they like to do. It's how they want to communicate. And so they came up with Connor said, hey, I like to cycle. Let's do a cyclothon. And I think his very first cyclothon was only 5 days, Angela?
He was 7.
7 days. And in that 7 days, he raised over $700,000.
Wow.
Okay. And then or maybe it was 500. Then it went to 700. That's right. 700. And then the third one, which was last year, raised over $1 million. In how many days, Angela?
14. He doubled the time.
And then this past one he did in 15 days, and it raised just over $1 million. In addition to that, he said, I have a great idea. I have friends that are in LA. I'd love to do an auction. We worked with Tiltify, and they really built out this amazing auction platform so that if you guys aren't using it, you should be using it. And again,
shameless plug, Aimee.
Shameless plug. But it made it seamless for us so that we could really focus on engaging, right? And so Angela and the whole team, our CEO, flew out to LA, met a lot of people, flew from, if I'm not mistaken, Angela, right? From across the country to come to this auction.
Yes.
And in its first year, remind me, Angela, how much did it raise its first year?
It was about $360,000.
And then last year, $750,000. So when you take all of that, the aggregate of everything that was raised in 2020, just last year, 2024, it was our highest total fundraising of over $2 million.
That's amazing. Through essentially 2 relationships that you've stewarded.
And hundreds of thousands of community members who knew absolutely nothing about us. And I would say Angela was really pivotal in, we would have monthly conversations with them. Angela, do you want to talk a little bit about how you stewarded the relationship? I think that would be really impactful.
Sure. So to start out with, really, at first I wasn't super I knew about the streaming world, but then I watched their streams. I still do. I watch their streams, and really I just treated them. They're human beings, these amazing who want to make a difference. So there I just really worked with them, got to know their likes, dislikes. And then as we started, at first it was just via email. And then I'm like, hey, we offered them some calls thanking them, And then I said, would you like to meet? Because Connor loves, obviously, who doesn't want to know where the money that they've raised, what he's been able to do. So then we started bi-monthly meetings with Connor. And now we do it with Connor and Ironmouse. And we share with them the amazing impact that they've had. And then we also give them an opportunity to ask any questions. But then we do things in the meantime. That's not all we do. We also always reach out. Like if I'm watching Ironmouse's stream and she's talking about something she might be nervous about or something like that, it takes a second to shoot a quick message on Discord or a quick email to say, hey, I'm thinking of you. Or if you know when their birthdays are, say happy birthday, send them a birthday card. Or even if you want to send them, we've sent them some Immune Deficiency Foundation swag, just little things, that shows that we're thinking of them. And so we've also always offered, if you need anything, let us know. So really it's just about, like I said, the human connection and just working with them and being genuine. That's been, I think, being genuine. They don't want to be treated like just another number. And so I think being genuine and that human connection is what's made all the difference. Yeah.
Now, so I love this. And a lot of what you're saying, the reality is this is how we should be handling all of our peer-to-peer fundraisers. Both of you came from that background in traditional and walks in cycling events. What do you feel is different for engaging content creators as opposed to a traditional fundraiser, and what feels the same?
Yeah. Angela, let me take that from my perspective.
Yeah, sure.
I'm almost 50, and I can tell you that I had a great mentor, and he said something very wonderful to me. And he said to me, listen, people give to people. People give when they feel connected. People continue to stay connected when they understand how their commitment is making an impact, right? That's the same. I think you nailed it right on the head, right? We don't need to treat them as if they're different. And I think sometimes we think, oh, this generation, oh, these content creators, they're different from. No, everybody wants to feel valued. Everyone wants their opinion or experience valued. And so I think what's the same is we need to take that same approach with any content creator that wants to be engaged in our mission, whatever that is, right? So I think that is the same. That stewardship that Angela's talking about, we, worked closely together for 3 years, but I think also as someone who's a servant leader, giving my staff member Angela a chance to say, hey, what do you think? Well, how would you like to move this forward? So I think that's a little different, right? I think instead of saying, okay, Angela, this is, okay, moves management, this is the rule for moves management. Wait a minute. This is a young woman who has lots of experience, who is amazing at what she does. Let her lead in that. And I think we need to do a better job of doing that, maybe getting outside of our own box within development and saying, well, this is how it has to be done. No, you have to send an email. No, you have to do this. No, because she asked that very important question. How do you want to be communicated to? So from there, she was able to grow the relationship by really speaking to what's important to them. So I would say that's critical. So I don't think we need to treat them any differently from that perspective, from stewarding them, doing that. I will say what's going to be different, because in traditional ways, you would say, oh, well, thank you, major donor, for giving me XYZ. Here's an annual report, and you could look at your name on it, and you could see how we spent the money and how and great, and we'll have a call with you. I think what's different in this, and I'm not just going to say content creators, but I think generationally, and as we start to become more aware and more careful about how we spend our money, you want to know and you want to have a hand in saying, well, where is this going? So I think one of the things that we talked about internally as an organization was how best can we take this? Because again, these individuals do not have to give to us. And it's hard to kind of budget for that. So you want to say, okay, this is a windfall for us. How do we take this great gift and create impact? And so we did talk to them about, look, here are some of the things that we are thinking about, but what do you think? That's the difference. And we really listened. Angela had, again, learning from them what was important to them, was able to come back to leadership and say, hey, listen, we need to be able to do these things because I think this is going to show impact. It's going to show them that we're doing X, Y, Z. And we would have did it anyway, obviously. We want to impact the community, but it's a bit different when you're listening to the individuals helping you fundraising and saying, okay, I'm going to develop a strategy based off of what interests them. Angela, what do you think?
No, I agree with everything you said. And I think too, when you introduce the online community, a couple of things that may be different is just the time zones. So that may seem silly, but if they're across the world, it's just being willing to staying up till 8 p.m. and having a meeting because they're already on the next day over there. So just being willing. And I think sometimes you might get a little more creative in showing how you appreciate them. Like you can't take someone who's over in Japan out to dinner unless you fly to Japan. That's not practical.
So Connor's in Japan.
Yes. And Ironmouse does share with her fans that she's on the East Coast.
Gotcha. So, it's interesting, Aimee, as you were describing, building these relationships, and you kind of don't know if a fundraising campaign or when a fundraising campaign might happen. It almost reminds me of planned giving. You steward these relationships with people who've indicated that they support you and they plan to support you, but you never know when that donation is actually going to come to fruition. And so that explaining that to your leadership, that building this relationship, it might result in 3 fundraisers within a year, in a fiscal year. And then the next year, there might be 1 or there might be none because they're planning for later. Kind of just the cycle is different than a once a year peer-to-peer walk in X market. So that's just when you were describing that, that's something that stuck out to me.
And I think that's the tough part about, if I'm just going to be very transparent. So you're having this situation, which is an amazing situation, right? Where you're raising a certain amount of money, but you understand that these are not direct gifts from an individual. This is from a whole community of people, right? And we don't know their individual situation. So it's very hard to budget that necessarily, right? But I do think we still internally were very strategic in having conversations with Angela and us developing from a development staff perspective. Okay, what's going to be our outreach? What are going to be our touch points? What do we think is the right time to have these certain conversations? So we were very strategic from that point, having conversations with our board and saying, listen, yes, we have great, but a lot of it is listening to Angela and what she's gleaned, right? And then you do budget. Obviously, are you going to budget $1 million? No, we're not going to budget.
Maybe not.
Maybe you want. And again, it all depends on your organization. We are very careful about how we budget because we want to make sure that we're able to provide resources and support for our community, right? It takes a lot of planning, but I think your thought on plan giving is on point, right? Because you're studing the relationship with hopes that a larger gift would be coming.
Yep. So you mentioned that you've raised significant amount of funds with essentially 2 creator partnerships. Now that you've opened this door, what does scaling this look like? How do you build something that's not only sustainable for your team, but also meaningful and a win-win situation for bringing even more content creators to doing their own subathons or their own events for IDF?
Yeah. I think when you in terms of scalability, I think it's really about making sure that we are communicating about our own goals and helping creators have a real voice in how they want to work with us and what they want to accomplish, and how we can ensure that we're both aligned on the messaging. So we need to be open to ideas, ensure we meet them where they are, and join them in seeing community beyond our traditional ideas, right? So we have the ability to share our messaging and mission worldwide, and we need their support, in doing that. So from a scalability standpoint, we take the time to plan with them, ensuring that we can provide appropriate support. Take, for instance, Sea Dog VA cyclethon and auction, right? We talked about that, planning with them, understanding and knowing in advance kind of what we think is going to occur and making sure that we have, the staffing to make that happen, right? And it's not just from a scalability standpoint, it's not just a development staff, right? So communications is involved in this. So supporting a lot of those pieces that we need, right? And marketing is also engaged in that. We also have our CEO, so we will plan with her, when she needs to engage and how we want to do that, right? And Jory is just who she is as servant leader. She's on our monthly calls now with Ironmouse and Sea Dog VA. They have a great relationship with her, and she is so engaged with them and having her own personal relationship. And again, that's a little different from many organizations, right? You don't see CEOs on an auction on the stage talking to the community, right? And or joining. I think at some point, Angela, if I'm not mistaken, we're talking about doing having Jory play with Ironmouse and play I don't know if it's Dungeons and Dragons or what, with them one night. So again, it's just a very different, each organization will feel its own strategy. We don't pay. So if you talk about scalability, like how do you grow this? We're not about paying people to represent IDF and represent our mission. We are very much about how do we grow it because here's the thing, everyone's a content creator. You and I look at Twitch, I look at some of these things, right? I'm not on there, right? But I'm on Instagram. How many people are on TikTok? How many people, we have members of our community, when you start talking about Discord, that are in their 50s and 60s, they're on Discord. They're gamers. If you don't ask, you'll never know. So for us, it's how do we find out more about our community? And surprisingly, when we said, hey, okay, we want to share more about what Ironmouse is doing on our Plasma Hero site. So she, talks about why she's promoting plasma. We did a podcast with her. We have a website. If you go to our website, you can look about and learn more about our relationship with Ironmouse. So many of our community members are now coming out and saying, oh my gosh, I do this, I do that. So then how do you then take that and develop the next relationship? We take that same stewardship strategy that Angela has been so successful and other members of our team and implement that with those community members. I do think that there are opportunities. There are some influencer marketing companies out there. I know that we want to, from a standpoint of sharing our message, there are people with chronic diseases who are already talking about their journey. We'd love to engage them. We'd love to engage our community members, but I do think that it has to be organic. I think what's made Ironmouse and CDawg VA so successful is that it has always been, these people are definitely wanting to be engaged with them. They're engaged with us because they're engaged with them. And because they are so real and genuine, they now have taken on our mission. And so we want to be respectful of that. We want to engage them and meet them. And I think it's also saying thank you to those who have contributed. It's saying thank you to those who have gotten on X and said, hey, go Ironmouse, go IDF. It's thanking them. We have a staff member that really spends time stewarding those individuals. So I think from a scalability, it's taking your time and developing genuine relationships with your community who are content creators. They're there. We just need to take our time and get to know them and engage them.
Well, Aimee and Angela, this was great. I think y'all are doing some really smart things in the space, and it's fun to watch. I know I mentioned that I just had a Google alert just last week about Connor and his fundraising efforts. So if there are people listening that want to learn more, both about the Immune Deficiency Foundation, or if they want to follow along with Connor or with Ironmouse, where can we send them in our show notes?
Sure. I would direct them to primaryimmune.org. Under Get Involved, you can learn more about the great work of our mission. Under Give, you can learn more about Ironmouse and Connor and how they've been engaged. I also invite people to go to our Tiltify page. You can go there and look up Immune Deficiency Foundation, and you can see all the other creators who have, because of Connor and Ironmouse, decided to join us and support our mission. And you can see how great and how fun it is to establish your own fundraiser. And then, honestly, Angela is amazing. You can always reach her on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Reach me on LinkedIn. We're one community. We're here to support you. We love the peer-to-peer world. I mean, Angela, anything else that I'm missing, feel free to share.
I think too, just even if you're a content creator out there and you want to help, and you're not sure about your fundraising at first, I think that's okay. I think from this content creator world and this online world that's been created, who else can be in front of tens of thousands of viewers a night, and make that difference? So I think even just to reach out, and even if you can't do the fundraiser at first, that's okay, because you can still make differences in so many other ways. You can spread the word. And then, content creators and online, they're all friends. So they all see it, all intermingles. So I think that's, just important to remember. Just reach out. You never know just what one email might do. And then for the Immune Deficiency Foundation, we also have plasmahero.org, which really helps stress the importance of donating plasma, and you can find a plasma center near you. And then I would also be remiss that please reach out if you would like to volunteer for the Immune Deficiency Foundation. And you can find information about that on primaryimmune.org as well.
I love it. Well, thank y'all both so much for joining us and for sharing all your great wisdom as people continue to dive into this world of streaming and fundraising.
Happy to help.
Thank you for having us.
The P2P Soap Box is produced in partnership with True Story FM. Engineering by Pete Wright. Music this week is by Jimit. If your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, we hope you'll consider doing just that for our show. But the best thing you can do to support the P2P Soap Box is simply to share the show with a friend or colleague. Thank you for listening.